In this video, we visit the tiny hamlet of Ysbyty Cynfyn to explore a famous example of an early Christian church built within the boundary of a prehistoric stone circle. But, in a disagreement going back nearly 200 years, some say that only this, the largest stone, is original, and that the smaller stones were actually added to the wall during restorations to the church in the 1820s in an attempt to enhance the impression of a druidical circle and entice swathes of profitable tourists. Although it might seem like an odd idea today, this was at a time when many antiquarians romanticised the Druids, attributing all pre-Roman structures to them. And with the rise of the picturesque, tourism in Wales was experiencing a decades-long boom in visitors who sought out the beautiful and sublime landscapes, but also the wild and the savage. A short walk to the west brings you steeply down to Parsons Bridge, which stretches over a breathtaking gorge cut by the Rheidol River. A simple bridge is said to have existed here since medieval times, and there is little wonder why this was a popular tourist destination 2 centuries ago. The bigger mystery is why we find it so unfrequented today. Not that we're complaining. Having the paths and hillside to yourselves is hard to beat, and at the top of this hill, we aim for Dolygamfa. Classified as a Bronze Age ring cairn, this 15-foot circle of stones is thought to have previously been covered by a mound of rocks and had a slight hollow at the centre, which may indicate the presence of a cyst. Nestled into picturesque hills, Ysbyty Cynfyn feels peaceful and remote. But just a mile and a half to the south, you have Pont ar Vyrnach, Devil's Bridge, and only a little over 10 miles to the west, you have the bustling and beautiful seaside town of Aberystwyth. So, if you find yourselves in North Ceredigion, we highly recommend a detour for this beautiful walk, steeped in history, and the focus of many a conflicting antiquarian account. Welcome back to our channel, Coral Jacks, where we visit ancient sites and explore the history and folklore that surround them. We just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who's been getting involved and helping our tiny channel. We've been blown away reading the positive messages on here and over on Facebook and Patreon. If you haven't checked out our Patreon yet, we have an extensive free tier where Coral's been building up quite a catalogue, and we'll be adding more video clips with behind the scenes and previews for upcoming videos. But for now, let's get back into this one. Finding ourselves in Aberystwyth, with sun in the sky and most of the day free ahead of us, we headed over to Pont ar Vyrnach for the waterfall walk. And realising that we could take the A44 past Ysbyty Cynfyn, we decided a short pre-walk walk was in order.
We're off to Devil's Bridge, but we thought we'd pass here first, somewhere I wanted to be for ages.
And where's here, honey?
Ysbyty Cynfyn.
But don't be fooled like us. Although the route is less than a mile each way, this bit in particular is really quite steep.
Steep. Yeah, my calves are burning.
Like, deceptively steep.
That's like a mountain climb.
Especially if the rest of your day looks like this. It's lucky we love walking.
Ysbyty Cynfyn. And you'll see these majestic stones. Yeah, somewhere we've wanted to come for a while. Quite well documented as a good example of a church being built quite clearly within a prehistoric site.
No, they just moved the stones here afterwards.
That is one of the arguments. That it was a folly. Oh, those people left the gate open.
Oh yeah, the sun's finally come out for us. And this is a really beautiful little spot. There's a lay-by just by the main road, so easy to stop off if you're in the area. Look at the size of this stone. And it might look big from up here, but it's actually the full length. We'll go around there in a second. The largest standing stone towers above the wall and is thought to have stood in this position for well over 3,000 years. The earliest mention of this stone in the churchyard wall is from 1770 in diaries of tours made in England and Wales by the Reverend A. Catcott. As well as a reverend, he was also a geologist, whose journals contained descriptions of the surface geology, which he was gathering to prove his belief in the biblical flood. He wrote, "In the churchyard at Ysbyty Cynfyn, there is a druidical stone, not placed as a fence, since it stands edgewise to the bounds." During our research for this video, Coral found a great site exploring early tourism in Wales, where the author, Michael David Freeman, has collected around 90 references to this site, going back over 200 years. And for anyone who wants to read them all in detail, there's a link in the description, but we'll cover the most important points. In 1799, John Lipscomb mentions one large, unhewn stone, but offers no further information. Over the next year or so, Iolo Morganwg makes two very similar sketches of a round wall, one with 5 stones in the perimeter, and the other 6. The text that accompanies each of them is characteristically vague, and he does not write the name Ysbyty Cynfyn, but the first contains reference to a nearby village, and the second mentions Parsons Bridge. He goes on to write, "Church in an ancient circle stone. They are all rude. Gate between 2 eastern ones. Rills that in floods would be grand falls, crawl feebly down rocks." Iolo Morganwg, born Edward Williams, had a profound impact on the modern perception of the Druids, but was also a somewhat controversial figure. He's widely known for his passionate interest in Welsh culture and history, founding the Gorsydd of the Bards of the Isle of Britain. By emphasising the Druidic past, Iolo aimed to inspire pride in Welsh heritage and promote a sense of cultural continuity and distinctiveness. But it seems he may have played fast and loose with the truth at times, and he is accused of forging documents such as... No, we'll save that for another video, because there really is a lot to go into on that topic. A few years later, in 1803, B.H. Malkin writes that there is, in a churchyard, a large upright stone monument, with the characters entirely defaced. I could not learn that any tradition was attached to it in the neighbourhood, and there was nothing in its shape or appearance, particularly to distinguish it from similar erections, to be met with in every part of this country. In 1805, William Fordyce Mavor passed through the village of Ysbyty Cynfyn, in the cemetery of which we noticed some ancient pillars. And then, in 1807, Malkin adds to his 1803 description, and says, "I have, from numerous appearances in Wales, as well as from a great many passages, furnished to me by my literary friends in old Welsh writers, been fully persuaded that the first British Christians used the druidical places of worship in the open air, within large circles of stone, like those of Stonehenge and Rolrich, or as some call it, Rollright in Oxfordshire. The church and churchyard of Ysbyty Cynfyn may be adduced as an instance of this. The church has been built within a large druidical circle or temple. Many of the large stones forming this circle still remain, and the fence around the churchyard is filled up by stone walling in the intermediate spaces." Throughout the 1800s, there are many more accounts of Ysbyty Cynfyn that either reference the stones as druidical or don't mention them at all, but not one describes the renovations to the church. The only real reference we could find is this image on Coflin of a sign within the church. It says that it was rebuilt and enlarged in the year 1827, with the addition of 137 sittings. Coflin simply state that the form of the pre-19th century church is not known. The current church was constructed on the same site and in the same location as its predecessor, but possibly to a larger plan and retaining nothing from the earlier fabric. Freeman mentions that Ysbyty Cynfyn appears twice on maps during the 19th century, pointing out that in 1845 the rectangle, which is presumably St John's Church, is incorrectly aligned, but we can only guess if this is because it was rebuilt. And he remarks that in 1886 the church is included on the map with a sub-square enclosure of about 40 metres, but the stones are not listed. By the beginning of the 20th century, accounts describe with confidence that the church was built within a druidical circle, with multiple suggestions that there were likely 12 stones at one time, and that the others may well have been broken up and used to build the church. By 1905, OS maps listed the remains of a stone circle at the site, cementing the now accepted view. And with so many similar accounts and interpretations, you may be wondering how it came to be in doubt. Well, times were changing. Archaeology was moving closer to the discipline we know today, and reassessing the assumptions of antiquarians was a common and necessary part of this process. After a couple of centuries of popularity, druids seemed to be falling out of fashion, and rather than adding credibility to the age and endurance of a church, standing on the holy site of the heathens it converted, a druidical link was now derided, and with many churchyards featuring individual standing stones or partial stone circles, a different narrative was now needed. In 1930, A.C. Haddon frames the reuse of ancient sites in a very positive way, referring to it as retaining the sanctity. Religious feeling also provides a link throughout the ages. A place once hallowed by religion, especially perhaps if associated with burial, is apt to retain its sanctity, though the particular form of religious observance may vary considerably from time to time. One of the best examples of this is found in the village of Ysbyty Cynfyn, in the upper part of the valley of Rheidol, where, as Professor Fleur showed me many years ago, a Christian church and graveyard occupy the site of a stone circle, most of the stones of which are still standing. The church itself, erected for the Roman ritual, has since, like the population, been converted to Protestantism. Been converted to Protestantism. Been converted to Protestantism. Protestantism. Like the population, been converted to Protestantism. Protestantism. Converted to Protestantism. Like the population had been converted, but other churches within circular graveyards occur in Wales. While we completely agree that other circular graveyards do exist in Wales, and don't worry, that video is in the pipeline, I can't imagine that A.C. Haddon was ever shown Ysbyty Cynfyn with most of the stones still standing. This seems to be a classic case of exaggeration or biased recollection and interpretation, which may well have led to future doubts. Also in 1930, Arthur Hadrian Allcroft adds his account, attempting to cast doubt or reframe the druidical interpretation. He seems to suggest that the megaliths could just as well have been raised by Christians. Here the church stands within a mounded circular yard, and built into the dry stone rivetment are several immense blocks. George Eyre Evans told me that the churchyard was enlarged in 1901, and that the older part is well nigh circular in form and mounded up. The largest stone, which stands in the wall of the churchyard on the east, rises 11 feet above the ground. Local tradition declares that there used to be many more of these megaliths, and that some were broken up to furnish material for the repair of the church or to build the retaining wall. There are usually accounted 3, others make them 5, by including fallen blocks now embedded in the wall. This burial ground at Ysbyty Cynfyn was evidently a peristolithic round barrow. Whether it was built to cover the bones of a pagan or of a Christian may never be known, but manifestly it came to be used as a place of Christian burial, and therefore of Christian worship, and in due course, therefore, it required to be fenced. It was fenced like other Welsh churchyards, with a stone rivetment, and this was naturally made by filling in the intervals between the megaliths. Writer after writer during the past century has spoken of this spot as an indubitable example of the conversion of a druidical circle into a Christian church. Whether such a view is right or wrong depends entirely upon what the writer means by a druidical circle. And then, in 1936, we have the first account that heavily doubts the authenticity of some of the stones, with Grimes simply writing, listed in the omissions of stone circles, the supposed stone circle at Ysbyty Cynfyn, which has achieved a certain degree of fame from its association with the work of Hadrian Allcroft. I have stated my reasons for omitting this site elsewhere. A decade after Grimes's dismissal, the site was reassessed, and a report in 1946 stated that a cursory examination of this monument has tempted archaeologists to draw the most interesting conclusions. At first sight, it would appear that we have an early Christian church, situated within the remains of a megalithic circle, 4 of whose stones form part of the present churchyard wall. Here, then, it would appear, was an amazing instance of that continuity of tradition so typical of Highland Britain. Unfortunately, however, it can be shown on detailed examination that one, at least, of the stones has been inserted into the wall rather than the wall built around the stone. Consequently, the association, on its recent visit, felt that it could not readily accept the tempting conclusion of the earlier archaeologists. But considerable attention was directed to one of the stones. It was felt that this one stone was worthy of more detailed study in the near future. In this way, members of the association agreed that there may still be some evidence for emphasising, although in a somewhat different manner, the long-continued tradition of sanctity at this spot. Following this reassessment, on the 1948 edition of OS Maps, the title Remains of Stone Circle is changed simply to Standing Stones. And then, in 1952, we have some fairly damning words from R.J. Kendall. The stones, in their present positions they maintain, do not fall even approximately on the circumference of the circle. More important still is the character of the stones themselves. 2 of them have been used as posts for the small entrance gate in the churchyard since at least 1813, and of the remaining 3, only 1 has its heels on the ground. The other 2 have the masonry of the wall in which they have been built, actually passing underneath them. This means they are not in the ground, and there is no reliable evidence that they ever were. Only 1 of the 5 stones is therefore without suspicion. 1 stone, even though it is a large one, is not enough evidence upon which to base a whole circle. It wasn't until 1963 that there would be a published follow-up from Grimes, who could be credited with starting all this doubt around 30 years ago. Grimes visited the site in 1933 and again in 1936, when he was dissatisfied with all but 1 of the existing stones. He originally discounted it as a stone circle, but, in the light of more knowledge, the earthwork assumes greater significance, and that there might have been a bank and ditch around the site, i.e. an embanked circle, like that at Miney Gur in Pembrokeshire. Over the next 60 years, accounts vary wildly between the 2 camps. Some still claim that 3 of the stones are in their original positions, that only the gateposts have been moved, while it is more broadly accepted that only the largest stone is original, and that the others were moved from their original positions, either in an embanked stone circle or some other megalithic monument. The more controversial idea that they were moved intentionally to attract tourists at the height of Druidomania is generally dismissed. There is also an interesting note that in the 19th century a yearly athletics contest would be held within the church. Ysbyty Cynfyn, a village of a few houses, where there is a chapel of ease of that name. This is near the River Rheidol and about 12 miles from the sea. It appears by the name that this was the residence of some Knights Hospitaller, instituted by one Kenwyn. The people of this county are remarkable for wrestling and pitching a bar over arm. They have a meeting once a year at certain chapels, where they remain all night in the chapel to try their activities in wrestling. If you follow the footpath around the back of the church, you can venture down to the wooded valley.
Oh my god, it looks like it's a sunny day on my camera. So we're walking away from Ysbyty Cynfyn. Where are we going today, Zeb? Gonna tell us? Or are you just gonna go? Okay.
Walking in the steps of the antiquarians.
He's walking in the steps of his antiquarian heroes. Ignore all this really wobbly footage. I'm just, dusting off those cobwebs. Hunting for a circle. I should probably open maps again. Or should we get to that tree and I'll look at maps again. These sheep look like they've all been stabbed. Someone's been here and carved M's into these sheep. Down here? Oh yeah. cairn?
Where are we looking? Oh yeah.
Cairn.
You are here.
I'm anticipating a lot of walking today apparently then. Oh, and a waterfall. Is that a waterfall?
Drop down into the gorge to Parsons Bridge. Follow the public footpath. You can venture down to the wooded valley and see Parsons Bridge. Bit of a high bridge.
My camera can't make out what it's looking at.
We've got to go over that.
Yeah, 'cause that's not that Parsons Bridge, is it?
Yeah.
Medieval? That doesn't look very medieval. Whoa, look down there. Whoa. Oh God, camera.
Parsons Bridge also became popular and well documented with early tourists. In those days, being various forms of a simple bridge, described as some wooden planks thrown over the gap. In 1878, an account describes only a single plank spanning from rock to rock.
Cool. Can you get down there or not? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, so we've just come up to Parsons Bridge, and from
This is Parsons Bridge.
If this is Parsons Bridge, and from what Coral read online, it should be a medieval bridge, but this definitely looks like a hunk of extruded aluminium. So unless they were extruding large pieces of aluminium back in medieval times.
Maybe it was a medieval bridge,
Yeah.
but it's not anymore.
Yeah. Well, even if it is quite modern, it's not giving me huge confidence.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. And it's quite a
Look
way
at
down.
that.
Seb, don't pull me while I'm putting my phone over the edge.
I know.
Wow. That's pretty sweet. I wasn't expecting that this morning.
Yeah, I hope the camera's picking up on how epic that is.
The colour looks quite nice.
Well, you can see why this would be quite a special area.
There's a few too many branches and probably not enough satellite reception for me to confidently get the drone out.
No.
I need a bit more experience. We've only got a Mini 3, so there's no obstacle avoidance or sensors, and it doesn't sound like they work very well on branches anyway.
This is a scary place to walk.
I know. I feel like if Seb pulls me on the other hand, I'm just going to let go. Ah, it's beautiful.
I'm glad we came here.
Why is this bridge styled the Parsons Bridge? In all probability, the church parson at one time, years ago, lived on the other side, and in order to save a long journey round to the Devil's Bridge, or Pont y Weed, spanned the chasm with a solitary plank. Time's chariot wheels have made their carriage road in this plank, all that intervenes between life and death, and left it all the worse for wear. Those who use it would do well to subscribe another plank. Parsons Bridge, consisting of planks laid across a cleft of about 8 feet wide and 20 feet deep. One end of the plank is fixed upon the eastern side of the river, but the opposite end is supported upon a rock, which, by its projection into the middle of the stream, contracts its channel to this narrow span. The whirling torrent, the fantastic rocks, scooped into hollows of unknown depth, the barren steep, the gloomy wood, the spiry mountain tops. While the hollow rush of the water heard at intervals adds solemnity to the whole. While drawing there, I saw 2 children trip over with as much unconcern as we would cross a room.
Okay, the bridge is starting to scare me now. It wobbles a bit.
We then head up to the stone circle Dolygamfa. The site is about half a mile to the west of Ysbyty Cynfyn.
Wiggle, wiggle. Steep. Ah!
Tiptoes or stretch your...
Yeah, my calves are burning and we're quite fit.
Claim to be.
I exercise, you know.
It's got its natural genetics.
Oh yeah. Muscle legged.
I hope most people have got natural genetics.
Some kind of genetics. I've only got an hour of filming left, I must delete some already. Seb's trying to sniff out the route. Oh god, stones. Should I?
Which way does it say from there?
Yeah, to the left.
Yeah, funny little path. And up here.
So, classic problem. It seems like the stones are just in this field, but some fat cows, or maybe bulls. Zeb, stop it. So Jack's gonna suss it out.
Covlin describes Dolygamfa as one of the finest small Bronze Age cairn-circles in North Ceredigion. So there's what look like two rather muscly large bulls over in the corner of the field, and we think this is the field with the stones in. I'm trying to work out if that white lump there is just more. Oh no, they're not bulls, they're cows. I can see udders. Oh yeah, there's the stones. So yeah, not ideal. Coral's not a huge fan of cows, and although I'm pretty confident, we have had some very, very enthusiastic young cows try and run after Zeb, and we've had a couple of instances where other walkers have been with us and it started off a bit of a stampede. So it's completely fair that Coral's a bit nervous, because they do get extra interested with the dog, and I think Zeb's got a bit of one of those faces. He looks a little bit like a cow or a pony or a something. Yeah. Oh, it's a cute one. So probably only about 15 feet across, not 20. Oh, it's some babies. Okay, so mums with their babies can also a little bit of trouble. So probably not going to bring the dog in here. So I'm not going to go around that side of the circle at all, just so that they don't feel like I'm entering their space. Rather than being a true stone circle, the monument would originally have been a cairn or mound of stones, encircled by a ring of upright stones. While there isn't a huge amount to say on the research or accounts of this humble circle, I cannot overstate how enjoyable the walk here was. We felt like we had stepped out of space and time for a moment, to be taken right back into the mindset of early tourists in Wales, as we walked in their footsteps and gazed out at their views. Yeah, so we're probably not going to get the drone out either, just because the drone's definitely going to be a big no-no around young cows. I'll get them all freaked out. I'm not sure if you saw it on camera there, but as soon as I started getting close to the mother, she started moving. Sorry for the terrible footage. Coral usually does the camera work. I broke the stabilisation on my phone when we were doing the cycling trip. Here's my excuse. Beautiful. Lovely little stone circle. There's a lot of purple poo. Oh, I have to stand in the middle.
Oh, it looks so green. That's not sitting, is it? That's sitting. Don't go through gaps. We are back at the bridge. So what would be like the end of this video? Should we be thinking about summing it up or anything?
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Sky! Woo! Sun! We were... Oh, I've lost it now. Where's the cows gone? Oh, there. Up there. Pretty epic stone though, bruh.
Mostly shady.
Oh, cars in the shade. Nice one.